Hey everyone, James Labrie from Dream Theater, and you're listening to or watching the podcast Talking into Infinity with JT and Brian. Enjoy this. These guys are extremely informative. I love their dialogue. I love their interpretation of the songs, who and what we are, what we were going after. They're very accurate in their interpretations and descriptions, and I just think this is a great show, and these guys are doing a stand-up stellar job. So once again, enjoy Talking into Infinity with JT and Brian.
What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Talking into Infinity, a Dream Theater-centric podcast. I'm your host, John. We are live on Facebook, YouTube, talkingintoinfinity.com, the cmsnetwork.com, and the CMS Network Rumble page. We are at those locations every other Thursday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you are watching on YouTube and you have not done so already, please click that like button, click that subscribe button, and smash that notification bell so that you are notified every time we go live. We also have started a Discord server. I don't know anything about it. I suck at it, but it is up. I'll find a way to share it somehow. If you're watching on YouTube, I did put it in the comments. I'll find a way to get it out to everybody if you would like to chat during or after the show. Without further ado, speaking of chatting, the master of chat himself, my esteemed co-host, Mr. Brian Hendrickson. What's going on, man?
Yo, it's always weird when we have James doing the intro and he's talking about, how we view the songs. And it's like, well, we have the same opinion of our excellent opinions when it comes to Metallica.
That is correct. That is correct.
Do you think Labrie's a big Metallica fan or no?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of several of the guys are. I mean,
Yeah.
They kind of grew up with that sort of stuff. They've said like Petrucci and Portnoy, and
Yeah.
they're one of those bands that was a major influence on them. That's I mean, evidenced by the fact that they did the Master of Puppets record,
True.
back on the 6 Degrees tour and whatnot. At the Ronnie Scott's show, they did Damage Incorporated, which we'll be discussing tonight, with Barney Greenwell of Napalm Death. So yeah, I think so, and I think at least Portnoy probably bigger than most because he was actually able to probably, I think, tolerate that 15 or 20 years where for me, and I only speaking personally, but I know there are other people that agree, where they just completely lost the plot, with Load and Reload and Saint Anger and S&M and stuff like that. It's just not good. But yeah, I mean, Mike Portnoy is a huge fan of all things, and he's got a very open mind. So yeah, but I would say yeah, but I mean, you would have to think that like the classic stuff was a big influence because I mean, when they were forming the band, in the mid 80s was really the heyday of Metallica. I mean, you're talking about, Ride the Lightning and Master of Puppets and Justice for All. And, I mean, what metal fan back then wasn't influenced by Metallica,
I want to go back and hear that now because I totally forgot about the Master of Puppets doing the whole album thing. I want to hear James on James vocals on those songs.
Yeah. Dude, I think I told this story on the show before, but real quick, I almost got to see that in Chicago. It would have been my first Dream Theater show out of town, and I would have seen that. They were doing a back-to-back at the Vic Theater, and I tried to get tickets for that one, and it had just sold out. So we got Friday, which was a standard show. I was like, damn it. But yeah. I mean, I was this close to getting the Master of Puppets night, which would have been just unbelievable. So...
Our first comment of the night goes to Johan Alexanderson. I like S&M. He clarifies the album.
Well played, Johan.
Yes.
Good to see you, man. Okay, well, you're wrong, Johan. No offense. Kale McLeish, good to see you as always. Says, nope, I still love those albums. You also are wrong. Look, let's just get this out of the way, okay? And you can call me narrow-minded. You could call me like old or whatever, or whatever you want to say. Those albums just suck ass. They're not good. They're shit. And I think for now, and I will say this, for me, I mean, I don't know where you stand on these records, but when Metallica was like the first band like that I was an absolute super fan for. Like when I was getting into Van Halen, there wasn't books and all that kind of crap. You know, Van Halen was pretty secretive about their stuff. But when I got into Metallica in 1988, there were books and magazine articles, all this different stuff. And I, to this day, know probably more Metallica trivia for the years between like 81 and 94 than almost anybody you know. And I read all the books and articles. Oh, we're never going to sell out. We're never going to this. But and the problem is that Load and Reload and Saint Anger, stuff like that, it was exactly the opposite of what they always said. You know, would not. They said it would never happen, and it happened tenfold. It was just disgusting. So it's not just that the music isn't nearly as good as those first 5 classic records, especially the first 4. It's the fact that they just were totally full of shit. You know, they were the one band you thought were never going to fuck you and sell out, and they sold out so hard, it's not even funny. So it's just the perfect storm of shit. I mean, do you like those records or?
So I don't come down quite as. Here's where you and I differ.
Okay.
I don't come down on those quite as hard as you do, and I also am not as big of a fan as you are of stuff like Death Magnetic and the newer stuff. So we kind of differ in that way, but I totally see the point. I thought Metallica is literally the perfect band that sort of lends themselves to the symphony thing. I think the 2 S&M things are decent. Like, I don't know if you've heard, I think there's like a Scorpions one.
Yeah.
There's an Accept. Like the Kiss with the symphony is atrocious. Like, it's just, I don't know. And the Accept one, it just doesn't really make a lot of sense. I think Metallica just kind of lends it to its, you know, especially these two, you know, stuff from these 2 albums or Ride the Lightning. But yeah, like I said, I kind of don't hammer those. But I mean, Lulu, we all know that's trash. Everyone can agree. Saint Anger. Maybe you might find one song you like. We know that's trash. The Load and Reload, I'm not as hard on those as you are.
Real quick. So Liquid Shadows tuning in says, sup fellers. Good to see you, man. Thanks for tuning in. Our good friend Giovanni Palaya checking in says, hey, all good to see you, Giovanni, man. Aaron Taft. He says, I was at that Chicago show. I remember James having some technical issues with his mic, but overall sounded good. Zauber 96, good to see you, man. He says, S&M is great. I don't like Load and Reload, but I kind of like Saint Anger, and I have an argument against it. And Kale McLeish says, so you're here defending Falling Into Infinity every week, but I'm not allowed to like 90s Metallica? No, you're not, because Falling Into Infinity is still a Dream Theater record. Load and Reload is not a Metallica record, and neither is S&M, and I can prove it. Look at Brian's background. I'm going to put you in solo, Brian.
Okay.
For all of our audio viewers, they're going to get a big treat out of this. But for those of you guys listening on the audio platform, Brian's background is a live shot of Cliff Burton and James Hetfield from 1984, circa 1984, 1985. Okay, look at these guys, okay? Do those guys look like they're supposed to be playing with a fucking orchestra? or playing something like Mama Said or 2x4? No. So I don't want to even hear it. Like I'm sorry, I get very animated. I will defend my position on this to the ends of the earth. You go listen to like Kill 'Em All and then listen to Load and tell me that Load is a good fucking record.
Oh, well, no one will go that far. I mean, I'm closer to you. I'm closer to you hating those albums than I am to you liking the other stuff that I don't think is as good as the newer stuff. Let's put it that way.
All right.
You know,
I think that's fair.
There's no way in hell I could sit here and tell you that you know, Load and Reload are as good as, you know, I mean, Kill 'Em All. That's just not going to happen. I mean, hell, I'll take Garage Days over that. Well, I'll take Garage Days over some of the newer stuff. To be honest, I think it sounds better. I think it's more raw. I think it's more honest, even though they're not even their songs.
Well, it's hard to disagree. I've always loved Garage Days. I for that exact reason. It's raw. It's got a shitload of attitude. Yeah. And I mean, it's just a really great listen, man. It's nasty Metallica getting in and out in like 25 minutes or something. And I think it's cool. So, question for you, because you know a lot more about this sort of thing, I should say. Can you think of a better 4, and we could even call it, if you want to call it 5 albums, if you want to include the Black Album, just due to the commercial success, and I mean, it's still a pretty good record, but even if you just say like 4 records, like Kill 'Em All, Ride the Lightning, Master Puppets, and Justice for All, can you think of another band that had a run that was that unbelievable? I think that's pretty goddamn hard to top, personally.
I think Maiden, if you start with Number of the Beast, if you start there,
So what would that be? Number of the Beast.
Peace of Mind,
Okay.
Power
Power
Slave,
Slave.
and Somewhere in Time. And then you got Seventh Son. I mean, that's a pretty that's
Huh.
a pretty that's, that's a pretty hallowed ground. I don't know, that's not the word. That's not the word I'm looking for.
No, but no, I know what you're saying. Do you think that Somewhere in Time kind of takes away from that in a way?
I don't, because I think the songs on that song are, I think they got so much killer melody and still kept the great riffs. That's my
I really like that record, but for me, I would say the Metallica one's stronger. But um,
Well, here's an interesting
eh,
one. Giovanni Palea, the first four Queensryche. As much as I like Queensryche, I'm gonna disagree.
and honestly, for me, Giovanni, I would say that it wouldn't be the first four. For me, it would be like Rage for Order, Mindcrime, Empire, and Promised Land would be the 4 album run that I would. That at least for me personally, I think Brian would probably, well, not probably, but might disagree and say the first
Well,
four
I'd put the
might.
warning in. I'd put the warning in there, and the problem is, like, as much as I like, well, this is hard. I don't know. As much as I like Rage for Order, it's kind of hard to necessarily sometimes defend that to people, because it's kind of so out there. But yeah, I mean, if you're
Yeah.
going to start with, yeah, I don't know, man, that's tough. But yeah, I don't know. I guess maybe some Priest was never really that consistent. You might get two really good ones, and then kind
Yeah,
of
what, like Screaming for Vengeance and Defenders of the Faith or something? I think I got them in backwards order. I'm not really good with their
No, that's
catalog, but
correct. Those two
okay.
are correct, and then that goes into Turbo, which I really like, and I know Akon likes that album.
Yeah.
So there's three, but then the one after that, Ram It Down, was they had that horrible cover of Johnny Be Good.
Oh God, yeah. Well, I still can't believe they passed up. I forget what song it was, but they got offered to put a song on Top Gun and turned it down, and we didn't think it was going to be a hit. Like, oops.
Well, there's
Not-
Rush. You got Permanent. What was that? Permanent Waves, Moving Pictures, Signals, Grace Under Pressure. Some people hate that album. I love it. You go back to Farewell Kings. I guess is before Permanent Waves. I think sometimes I get their
Okay.
catalog jacked up, but yeah, I don't know, man. I guess if you're talking just if you're like hard rock metal, so you're not going to say Van Halen, huh?
I, for me, I mean, that's a little bit too much
too
low hanging
easy.
fruit. Yeah, and it's also, I think it's more of a personal taste thing, and I think, I mean, the Metallica thing, like Van Halen had consistency pretty much throughout their career. Because if you want to, I mean, even if you want to just take the Dave records, if you want to do 4 album runs, you've got Van Halen 1, Van Halen 2, Women and Children First, Fair Warning. Okay. Or you can start in the middle. You can go Van Halen 2, Women and Children First, Fair Warning, Diver Down. Say what you want about Diver Down cover songs, but it's a fun record.
Right.
Or you start at Women and Children First. Then you got Women and Children First, Fair Warning, Diver Down, 1984. Like, it's, all the Sammy records were number one. And it was just a consistent career. Whereas Metallica, if you think about it, like, they're the biggest band in the world, but it really, really, really has to do with the fact that they have this bedrock of these 5 records. It's like the Black Album is obviously the bridge between old and new Metallica, and the old stuff is so goddamn good that even people like Kale's age, who he's like, oh, I love Load and Reload and stuff like that, they still love the old stuff too. It's that good, and the stuff was so legendary. I mean, think about it. If Metallica's first record had been the Black Album, have they done anything nearly that good since? Probably not. So they're not anywhere as close to as big as they are right now.
Okay, well, let's put it this way: they had the best slow, gradual growth to become a complete phenomenon, because Van Halen was like, okay, the second it came out and they did a couple openers, all of the other bands were like, we can't have these guys open anymore. We don't, you know what I mean? Like, they went they went that fast. Whereas Metallica, it took all the way until Justice to even get a music video, right?
Yeah.
So
Correct.
and they were kind of touring the clubs with, like, was it Wasp and Armored Saint on the off Ride to Lightning, and then they get on the Ozzy tour with Master. that starts good, but they still didn't really have any kind of radio play at all whatsoever.
No, it was strictly an underground. Like these guys are fucking ferocious.
I mean,
and the
they
music
didn't
is
get
so
the
good.
radio play at all until the Black Album. I mean, that's just a fact. I mean,
well, I mean, outside of one, I mean, one kind of, and it was, I mean, and that's the thing is that it's like one was, basically let's say the public's first exposure to them.
Yeah.
And that song is just unbelievably destructive. And, people, when they listened to that, then they went back to the prior 3 records and were like, oh my God. So it's just, they were an arena act headlining, so I mean, to your point, yeah, it was like a slow build and every record was, I mean, just unbelievable.
Yeah, I don't know how much radio they were getting with one. I mean, it was probably pretty limited. I mean, it wasn't like Masters of Puppet, like MMS now. Well, I mean, for the last 30 years, basically, MMS, like anything off the Black Album, you'd hear, constantly.
Well, I know I heard one on the radio. I know I did. So, and because I was always listening for it, but
okay,
yeah. So I mean, Johan Alexanderson, all Rush albums until Test for Echo, more or less. I actually liked some of Test for Echo.
Wait, somebody, Aaron Taft, I think I'm going bald is awesome. Okay, we're getting way too deep on Rush cuts now.
Look at that. I don't even know that one. Wow. Okay, so discuss Metal Joe, you ass. He said, good to see you, bud. He says, John always says Van Halen. Don't believe his lies. See, I didn't do it this time. I said it was low-hanging fruit. Zauber in 96, his first 10 Van Halen albums are great. Totally agree with that. By the way, speaking of Van Halen, real quick, we'll get back to Metallica. A Different Kind of Truth is back on streaming services, meaning you and I can have our big different kind of truth debate where I prove why you are wrong about a great record.
I can't wait for this.
Yeah. Okay. The interesting take by Joe, and then we can get into the cage match. Discuss Metal Joe says Master of Puppets is the fully realized thrash band someone signed in 81. Justice is that band trying to be Merciful Fate. One leads to the other. Both have their points higher than the other. I don't really know about the Merciful Fate part of that, man. I don't know. I think you make good points, but I don't know about the Merciful Fate part. I
buy it to some degree. I mean, we all agree that Justice is their prog album.
Oh, for sure.
For lack of a better word, I guess.
The one thing I would agree with is when Lars was doing interviews for the Black Album, and he said, we had taken, the thrash proggy thing is about as far as it could go with Justice, and if we would have done more like that, it would have just disappeared up its own ass. I can kind of see that, but I don't know. I would have, yeah. Real quick, I'll answer Kale's question. We can get into the cage match here. He says, why was it off? Meaning, why was A Different Kind of Truth off streaming platforms? I know Wolfie said it was on Dave, but I don't think that's accurate. No, that's accurate. Dave didn't like the record and was purposely railroading it. Same thing with the Eddie Van Halen tribute stuff. He was being a prick because his ego was butthurt that people actually gave a shit about Eddie and not him.
So what they do, just pay him so
they haven't
to be on there or what?
Well, they haven't come out and said it. And then Dave said that him and Alex agreed that it wasn't worth the legal fees to try and get a better deal from the record label. And also Dave's like, well, basically Dave's saying he doesn't think the records are good. He actually came out and said that, in that stupid video where he's pretending to be a therapist, like where he's ripping on Wolfgang.
Right.
He actually came out and said that the Van Halen albums that Wolfgang was on weren't very good. And I'm like, well, fuckhead, you're the singer. You're the one that's, singing like a cat hit by a car on Live from Tokyo Dome. You're the one, that was doing the vocals for A Different Kind of Truth.
Right.
The band was on fire. You're the one sucking up the room. So whose fault is that, you goddamn balding jerk fuckface? Oh, God. I can't, dude. I love all Van Halen. I have the slightest preference for Sammy, as we've discussed. I can't stand Dave. He's such a dick. He's just a fucking dick, man. He's just intolerable.
He doesn't know how to just appreciate what he has. That's the problem. He has to open his mouth and be. It's like, dude, you were a huge part, and I think sometimes he takes way more of a bashing. I think for his, he was an insane frontman and a great singer on those early albums. Like, just and his voice is gone now, and that's fine. But I don't know why he has to continue to just be a to be a douche, but that's just his thing, I guess. Like,
Yeah.
just enjoy it. You were a part of a great history, man. You were along for the ride. I mean, you helped the ride too, but it's like, it's very strange.
Yeah, I agree. All right, one last Van Halen thing. Kale says, "Did you see they dropped a new live version of Top of the World from the Fuck Tour?" That, Kale, is a remastered, redone version of a free show they did in Dallas in 1991. They blocked off some of the main streets in Dallas, and they did a free concert at like 11 o'clock in the morning. Most of that show, Sammy Hagar's voice is pretty roached. I've had that on DVD for quite a long time. They said, "Oh, first time released." Like, okay, released, but those of us who are Van Halen honks have seen that everywhere. The full thing's on YouTube. But they did remaster the audio and the video, and it looks really good. So it's really cool. It's a little shorter, but basically Sammy got through only a handful of songs on their Dallas stop on the OU812 tour and said, "Hey, we're going to come back and play for free because you just got screwed out of a whole concert," and took them like 3 years to make good on it. But, all right, so let's get to the point here. We've waxed poetic for 20 minutes. So here it is, album cage match number 6. And we've talked about doing this in the past. We are finally bringing it to fruition. This is a tough one, man. So it's 2 absolute classics, 2 of the most influential metal records ever recorded. Master of Puppets, I believe, is always, I've seen it rated as the top metal record ever. I've seen Rain in Blood, ranked as the top one. In either case, Master of Puppets has a case to be made. So we decided that we wanted to do a cage match pitting Master of Puppets versus And Justice for All. It's Master of Puppets follow-up. So as per the usual cage match rules, we have to have an even number of songs. So because And Justice for All only has 9, we had to pull 1 off of And Justice for All, meaning 1 song, not the song 1. And Brian and I agreed that we would take off To Live Is to Die because it is an instrumental. Even though that, there's going to be an instrumental left on Puppets, we still have to have 8 versus 8. So To Live Is to Die is not being counted. So I will say my first exposure to Metallica was my first exposure to metal, period, was 1. And I just fell hook, line, and sinker. I burned out so many copies of the Justice record. I've been on record on the show many times as saying it's there are 2 records in my life that I consider the most influential. Number 1 is 1984, and number 2 is And Justice for All. Because of And Justice for All, I went down the Metallica rabbit hole like a fiend, as I said a few minutes ago. And I was just completely hooked. I was the bullied kid. I was like small and scrawny, and listening to Metallica when I was 12 years old made me feel like I was cooler than all the idiots that were trying to beat me up and stuff. And they're listening to hair metal, and I'm like, you bunch of pussies. I'm listening to Ride the Lightning and Injustice for All, and that got me into Slayer and Anthrax and all this stuff. So it was like Metallica was like an escape. It was a new outlet for me. It was definitely a gateway into a side of my personality that I couldn't really explore. So Metallica is a very, very important band for me, which is why I get pretty riled up about certain aspects of their career that I don't enjoy. But yeah, so the first time I heard Metallica, it just completely changed what I listened to. What was your first exposure to Metallica, Brian, and what was your reaction?
So it was called Monday Night Metal in St. Louis. They had a show, and it came on at 10:30, and I used to record it right off the radio with a cassette, old school.
Nice.
And I got in the habit of, like, if they were going to say, "Oh, here's the new whatever," I would just always record the song, and they just start recording the whole show. And the first thing I think I ever heard was "Fight Fire with Fire" or "Ride the Lightning." It was one of the 2.
Okay.
And I was like, "Oh my God, what is this?" And they're like, "This is Metallica." And then they were supposed to be coming to this small club by me, and it was going to be, like I said before, I think it was going to be Wasp and Armored Saint.
Okay.
And I didn't end up going because I was like, I was like scared it was going to be like, I don't know, like a bunch of bikers there or something. I don't know, because I was only like, the time this came out, I was 16 or whatever. And but then it was like, so I went out and bought the cassette, like wore the thing out. I was like, oh my God, every song on here is great. And then Master of Puppets came out, And I was like, oh my God. And then there was a friend of mine's like, hey, this local band, this cover band's playing. They're going to play with an original band. You want to go see them? And like the very second song that this band played was Master of Puppets.
Wow.
Yeah, and this was like, you know how well this is before your time, but there used to literally be St. Louis, pretty big town. I mean, not as big as Cleveland, I guess, or maybe slightly bigger. I can never remember what the market size is, but
Okay.
if there was five, maybe there was five really good rock cover bands. Whereas now there's 40, you know
Right.
what I mean? Because everybody in their, because of Pro Tools, because of American Idol, because of Rock Band, the game, everyone just wants to be a rock star. It wasn't like that back then, but these guys, they absolutely nailed it. I mean, they did Battery and they did Master of Puppets back to back, and I was like, oh my God, and I was already kind of in love with the album anyway. And,
Yeah.
yeah, and then I was lucky enough to go to that show with Ozzy where they opened for him on Ultimate Sin, and that was just amazing,
Dude, that's a show, like if I had a, like if I, like, when I die, it's like if the,
right.
God's like, hey, you could go back in the past, do anything you never always wished you could have done. Like, that's a show I'd want to see. Like Metallica on Master of Puppets and Ozzy on Ultimate Sin, which is my favorite Ozzy record. Like,
yeah.
Oh my God.
Well, also you talked about like the number of albums in a row. So didn't Kill 'Em All actually get the major release in 83?
83, yeah.
So between 83 and 88, you've got these 4 albums. I mean, that's not how now we're 9 years between albums, if we're lucky.
Yep.
Or 7 or something.
Yeah.
I mean, you just if we go back and just look at it like that way, just bands just seemed, were just so much more prolific. Well, bands are always more prolific when they're younger anyway. But
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that was, I was hooked as soon as I heard him on that Monday Night Metal, and it was something enough to Ride the Lightning. I don't remember which song, but
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, it's interesting to me because Metallica is known as the early Metallica. Like, basically, when you think of Metallica, let's face it, people are thinking of those early records and stuff. And it's always been interesting to me that, like, all of the adjectives that people use to describe, I've said this on the show before, all the adjectives that people use to describe Metallica are really showcased on Justice more so than any other record, I think. And it's amazing to me because you had, the Metallica sound was obviously honed to perfection on Master of Puppets, but I think to really get that ferocity, I think, Justice has it. And of all things, it, unfortunately, Cliff's death added an extra layer, at least for those next few years, because that just, talk about fuel onto a fire. And I mean, it was just crazy, the amount of anger on that album, and it just added something extra to it that I think none of the other albums have, which has always been really interesting to me. So real quick, guys, we do have a Discord set up. People asked us to do it, so we did. I think I'm sharing the correct link on the chat. So if not, Kale can help me out. He's good at that shit. I'm not. So, and it's open all the time. I don't know how to close it, so just go there and talk, whatever. I don't know anything about it, but
Discuss
all right.
Metal Joe says if he's going back in time, he's going to see Kathleen.
Nice. Oh my God, that's fantastic.
I want to go back in time and see Linton Fish special.
Oh my God,
entire tours,
dude. You would be one of 7 people in the crowd.
Hey, I opened for Linton Fish special.
That's awesome, dude. That set list was so much fun, singing all that classic rock, man.
Yeah.
Nobody played that stuff. That was amazing. So, all right, let's get into it here. So, all right, Brian, give me a number, even or odd.
Oh, all right. Let's go 1986.
So even. Okay.
Even.
It is an even number in the random number generator, so I will let you start. Here we go. Track number 1, we have Battery versus Blackened. Which do you have taking the cake?
Man, last time we did this, the first 2 it was brutal picking. We did the Maiden show, Seven Sons, so we had to do Moonchild against Aces High.
Right.
And it was all I could do, and I still went with Moonchild, but I'm not doing that this time.
Okay.
I gotta go with Battery. And
Okay.
it's so tough, man. I mean, I just love that classical guitar intro, and then you get the down, and then the guitar harmonies come in, and it's just such a huge, massive, powerful beginning. And there's nothing wrong, there's nothing bad or uncool whatsoever about Blackened, I can say, but I gotta go with Battery on this one.
Okay. Yeah, I mean it's not the cool thing to me about Battery was always that it opens up, like you said, with that, the classical guitar type of thing. And
Yeah.
that's how Ride the Lightning opened.
Yep.
You had that pretty thing. You're like, what is this coming off of, Kill 'Em All? And then it gets into Fight Fire with Fire. You're like, holy shit.
Yep.
So when the clean guitars come in on Battery, you instantly go to, oh, it's going to be like Fight Fire with Fire. And man, it does not disappoint. It's
No.
like, yep, okay. Yeah, so we're going to do that again. So it's amazing. I mean, people are saying in the chat, Johan Alexanderson is saying Battery riff is iconic. Kim Cleash, look, the intro to Battery lives rent-free in my head every time I walk out to the register at work. Blackened is a great song, and I love the bridge in that one, but I think I'm going Battery. Giovanni Palaya, welcome to the Battery. Robert Reams, oh, good to see you, man. It's been a while. He says Blackened is the end. Yeah, I love Battery, dude. I mean, these records are so difficult to pit against each other because they're just so unbelievably good. Aaron Taft is also on the side of Battery. He says, I agree with Battery. The classical guitar intro is great. I'm going Blackened, though, man. It is my all-time favorite Metallica song. I like that major change in the middle where it just, breaks down to the I just love that where it just simplifies and you're just banging your head, to it. And the riff is great, and it's like, with the thrash beat, and then after the guitar solo it gets into a straight like 4/4, and then it goes to the off. Like I just love what it does. And like I say, for me, that is my favorite Metallica song. Like when I first bought the tape, having heard one, and I put that on, I was like, this is what I'm getting. Holy shit. Like it was unfreaking believable. So yeah, I chose Blackened, which should probably not be a surprise. Nice English there. Should not be a surprise because I've said before it's my favorite tune. But you're right. This is a difficult like head to head. They're just so great, both of them.
So my take is, Master of Puppets, the riffs are these brutal, thrashy, super heavy masterpieces, whereas Justice for All, they're a little more melodic. You definitely get a little more, you're getting more changes, in the song structure and stuff. Like we said, it's a little more prog. And it's an interesting study in how the riffs are really just so different on the two albums, but they're still killer,
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, it's so hard to quantify because they're just, I don't know, man. Like, like I say, like the riff in Battery is like a single note riff, like, whereas Battery is like a, and a lot of Puppets is more power chord ish type of stuff. So yeah, but you're right. They're just so iconic. I mean, James Hetfield is just the absolute fucking master. I mean, there's like, I mean, if you really want to think, to me, it's Tony Iommi and Hetfield. If you're talking about like the kings of metal riffs, I mean, how can you deny it? There's others that did amazing stuff, but I'm sorry, like, Black Sabbath riffs and Metallica riffs, like, there's no competition. So, yeah. All right, so we are already at odds in our choices, which brings us to song number 2. The title track of Metallica's third record, Master of Puppets, against And Justice for All. The both title tracks head to head.
Yeah.
And what do you have winning here? I think I can guess.
God, this is another one. Do you like putting the title track second? What are your thoughts on that?
It doesn't bother me. I mean, to be honest, it took me forever to even think about it.
Yeah.
because I'm just like, song's a song. I don't care where the fuck they put it. Like, it's just,
Yeah.
so I mean, to me, I'm not one of those people that's like, well, you got to have the title track first or last or something like that, like bookend. But
I used to like if they would make it the second or the first song on like the second side of an album.
okay.
And I was trying to think that Maiden did that, but they didn't. It was Back in the Village, and then I think it went into Power Slave. So I'm wrong on that one too. But yeah, that's like always the perfect spot for me. I don't know. It's weird that when I looked at this, I'm like, please don't tell me that Battery's going up against Justice for All. I was like, son of a bitch. There
Right.
it is. Yeah, I mean this one's like damn near a tie. I gotta go Master of Puppets. I mean, I think Master of Puppets is the quintessential defining song of metal of all time, probably. You know, I'd probably go something like this, and then Heaven and Hell, like those two. I don't know. I don't know how you get. You know, I don't know how you get any heavier or any better than that. You know, it's just
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
the harmonies too. I just love the guitar harmony stuff. I mean, and to me, that's where I differ with you on the newer stuff because that stuff is just not in there. They just don't do it.
yeah.
You know, this last album when we did that deep dive, I started finding some, and I was like, oh, that's cool. But really, prior to that, there just is not any of that stuff going on, and that's what I think is lacking.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, I to me, I think you're never going to touch stuff like this, like Puppets and Justice and all that. Like, so I mean, I come at it giving it a little bit of a grain of salt because it's, you're never going to live up to that. So I don't look for it. I just expect it's not going to be there. It's interesting for me because this was a very, very difficult call for me because with Master of Puppets, there's a certain like, I mean, it's overplayed. It's kind of like Van Halen. If you're picking songs, like, am I going to pick "Running with the Devil" and "Ain't Talking About Love"? Like, no, go away. I've heard those songs 1.5 million times. Like, and Master of Puppets is kind of like that too. So I had to kind of remind myself of how I felt about the song when I first heard it, when it was more fresh and I was younger. Same thing, so I could pit it fairly against "And Justice for All." And everybody in the comments, I mean, it's I could, Giovanni is saying, Giovanni Palaia is saying Master of Puppets is king. Kale McLeish is saying Master of Puppets kind of has to be. I prefer the Justice solo, and the reprise of that beautiful intro is great, but Justice isn't Master, and Master is the Master. Johan is saying, love both, but Puppets can't lose. Chastity Crawley says Master of Puppets brought a new generation to Metallica. They thought they discovered Metallica, but still, they started listening to non-crappy music. Yeah. I mean, doesn't that speak to Master of Puppets that it was in Stranger Things, and now all of a sudden all these people are like going, oh my God, Master of Puppets is great. Like, I mean,
That's funny.
All these like young kids are going back to something from 1986 and going, this is like ungodly. So that being said, I had to pick "And Justice for All."
Yeah, I mean,
I think for me, what did it to me was I just something about the song "And Justice for All." I think I've always had kind of a soft spot for it because it seems to be like it takes a lot of crap. It takes a lot of crap from fans. Like, oh, it's too long, it's too repetitious, it's too this, it's too that.
it does. I didn't know that.
Yeah. That's dude, I've heard that from a lot of people. Like, it's
really?
just,
Okay.
yeah. And I'm just like, I think it's a great song, man. I love the lyrics. The lyrics are just as nasty as can be. They're like pissed off. And,
Yep.
it's got that slower kind of like mid-tempo groove, which I think is really cool. It kind of stands out on a record where there's a lot of, when you think of, Justice, you kind of think of the faster stuff like Blackened or, like Shortest Straw and Dyer's Eve and things like that. And I just, there's something a little more interesting to my ear with "And Justice for All" as opposed to Master of Puppets, because Puppets is amazing, but you got verse, chorus, verse, chorus, the middle part with the guitar harmony, then you do the guitar solo, then you go, verse, chorus, and then the outro. "And Justice for All" is a little weirder, and I kind of tend to lean towards that a little bit. But I mean, it's so unbelievably close So if someone was like, you can only listen to one of these two songs and it can't be on Justice for All. You have to listen to Master of Puppets. I'm like, okay. Twist my arm. What a shame. So,
Yeah.
So yeah, I went with Justice on this one, but it was this was the second most difficult decision that I had to make in these rankings. So it was so unbelievably close. All right, moving on to number 3. Off of Master of Puppets, we have The Thing That Should Not Be. And from And Justice for All, we have Eye of the Beholder. And Cale McLeish up in the chat somewhere said that Eye of the Beholder is a terrible song.
Well, that's
and
the
he
Eye
is
of the beholder.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah,
Right?
Perfect timing. Yeah. Cale, I'm going to say you're wrong. I'll just put that out there. I love the song. So, what do you have winning this battle, Brian?
I'm gonna go Eye of the Beholder on this one. I love that this song does something that like hardly any of their songs do. Like the whole band fades in, like at one time, which is I think it's very cool. Love the riff on this song. Like the lyrics. Love his vocal delivery. I think at one point I said I didn't like The Thing That Should Not Be just to get under your guy's skin, and I created a whole thing. I really wasn't being serious. I'll be honest, because I actually do like that song. But yeah, I'm going Eye of the Beholder here. I that riff is just so crunchy and killer, and A Thing That Should Not Be is cool. I mean, it's different than a lot of stuff they've ever really done. Again, this is so hard. I mean, I just can't pick all of Master of Puppets. I mean, I could. But yeah, I really have to go Eye of the Beholder on this one. I love the groove, you know. They get into these just kind of grooves on this album. That obviously Master is more of a thrash thing.
Yeah,
I think you said there were groove before too. They lock into these just kind of cool grooves, and you're just like,
yep.
You know, because I don't like the headbang where you got to go 5 million miles an hour. You know, I like the headbang where I'm like, dude, you know, like I'm feeling it. You know, it's like,
right.
You know, I don't know. It's like an old man mosh or something, right? So,
an old man mosh.
yeah,
nice.
I just love the guitars and the groove on some of these things on. Well, almost all of them on Justice.
Yeah.
And this is one of the particular ones I've always loved the groove on it.
Cool. Yeah, I love it. I love Eye of the Beholder. You know, I very shocked that Cale said this song is terrible. I completely disagree. Yeah, I think the song's great. I agree with you. You know, it does have that cool groove. You know, it's kind of like that simple, like the easy to headbang and move to, like and I like the, you know, how it goes to the almost like the swing time thing, like that's cool. Like that's a cool change. You know, the riffs are nice and simple. It was one of those things like I was just learning to play guitar, and I learned it, and I was like, I can actually play some Metallica. It's like, you know, it's a little bit easier for me to play, whereas most of the stuff on Justice was beyond my skill level for, you know, quite a while. So yeah, I have no problem with Eye of the Beholder. I think it's a great song. But this was the easiest one for me by far. It's definitely Thing That Should Not Be. Blackened is my all-time favorite Metallica song, and The Thing That Should Not Be is my number 2. I just think it is so goddamn heavy. It is just, I mean, those verses where it's like June June messenger of fear, you know, it just has this aura to it, this atmosphere. Oh my God, the song is so great. It's the heaviest Metallica song.
It's like after I make each pick, I want to go back and change it.
Right? Yeah, I mean,
can't do both.
I mean, it's just There's a if you're into this song, I'm trying to think, is it Mountain View? I want to say but there's like a Pro Shot Metallica show from I think 93. It's like 93, I want to say, but it's on YouTube. And Jason Newsted he has long black sleeves, and he's got it's like kind of during the daytime too, and he's got like short hair, like all over, not just, you know, the mohawk, whatever. If you go watch it, the production actually sounds really good. And this is the part of the Black Album tour where they started throwing some stuff in that they hadn't done in a bit. And The Thing That Should Not Be is one of them. So what you have is the ungodly heavy, like bass heavy, Black Album and Black Album tour production, but playing the thing that should not be, when Hetfield still had that Hetfield scream to him. And it is absolutely the coolest rendition of any Metallica song I have ever seen. It is so goddamn heavy. And I just love it, man. Thing that should not be is just fucking heavy. It's like you put this on, you just walk around. Anybody looks at you with the slightest bit of cross, so you give them the middle finger. It's like, it's
Well,
like,
it props to the band we got to see open for Dream Theater, Metallica, with the greatest combo ever. The thing that should not let it be.
Yes.
Greatest song title mix ever.
Right. So yeah, but I mean, for me, this was easy when we first decided to do this. Let's do a cage match. I'm like, thing that should not be. I already know the third song.
Right.
Like it was. So yeah, that for me, this song is just untouchable. It's the one Metallica song. It's my bucket list. I want to play it live on stage, Metallica song, and
nice.
I'll never get to, but we'll see. I'm actually doing kind of like a once or twice a year band with a couple insane guitar players that I know, and they want to do all guitar shit, and they're both, or at least two of us, are huge Metallica fans. So I think I'm going to see if I can con them into doing the thing that should not be. Because when you go to a bar to hear a cover band, that's what you want to hear, is the thing that should not be.
Hell yeah, man. Why not?
So, all right. So moving on to track 4. From Master of Puppets, we have the legendary Sanitarium. And from And Justice for All, we have the even more legendary, kind of like the song that started it all in a way, at least in the eye of the mainstream. It is, of course, One. Which song do you have winning this battle?
Well, much like number 3 for you, this was the easiest one for me.
Okay.
Hold on to your seats. Hot take coming.
Okay.
I am not a huge fan of One. I've never, of all of the amazing songs that came before then, or that are even get to before you get to One on the album, how is this the one that catapulted them? No pun intended. I don't get it. I mean, it's okay, but for me, this is just a home run, man. Welcome Home Sanitarium. I just don't even think it's close, man. Like I guess I mean, can you? And I know you'd love the song One, but do you at least understand where I'm coming from? With all of the stuff that came before, why was One the one that took off more than, let's say, Blackened or?
Well, because like I said, it was the first exposure that the quote unquote public had to Metallica. Previously, Metallica was one of those bands that was like, I'm not going to say underground, but it's like you had to be a metalhead to know.
But why that song? Why not any of these others?
Because okay, think about it. It had a video, okay? And what you had was, it was all in black and white in 1988, in an era when everything was hair metal and neon colors and poofed up hair and all this kind of shit. Instead, you've got Metallica in a goddamn warehouse in black and white. And you're like, and you got a guy with no arms and no legs as the main character of the video with his face covered. It was everything that was opposite of hair metal. So for any kid out there that liked heavier stuff, and maybe hadn't, was not a fan of hair metal and didn't really get out there to experience other types of music, they see this and go, this is what I'm looking for. And then when you get to the end, you're like, and then, it was just like, people are like, what in the, it's kind of like, Smells Like Teen Spirit, when that came out and Nirvana hit, well, it was fucking over, for hair metal. It was like, this is so, it's different. And for somebody looking for something different, here it is. One was that, for people that weren't into all the glitz and glam of hair metal.
Well, let's clarify though. Wasn't Harvester of Sorrow the first single? I believe it was.
I always
if only we'd researched this.
Well, I mean, it's so easy to say it might have been. I still think it's One. And yeah, see, now you're saying it.
If only there were a device to figure this out.
Yeah, I know. Eye of the Beholder was the other one, but I'm trying to see.
You're right.
Like,
well, it says that's the first music video.
Yeah, I know it's the first video.
Yeah, we knew that.
So I think it was one, dude. I know Eye of the Beholder was later, but um yeah, I just see, and I picked one. I mean, it's the gateway song for me.
Okay,
But
you want to you want to know who's right?
yeah, I think you are.
Yeah, Harvester of Sorrow, August 28, 1988. Eye of the Beholder was second. One was actually third.
Oh, really? I thought Eye of the Beholder was third.
Not according to the Wikipedia, which we I
Wow.
guess we take. So why not? Why no video for Harvester of Sorrow?
Yeah, that's weird. When was the single one by Metallica released? That's crazy.
It says January 10th, 1989. I mean, this is like
That's what I'm seeing.
5 months after the damn album came out.
Yeah. Wow.
Well. Anyway, my point is like, I mean, I get what you're saying because no one was doing any type of a video like that or a song like that. I just don't think. I just like, why the hell didn't you do it with Harvester of Sorrow or Eye of the Beholder? You know, why not do a video for
Yeah.
those? I don't know. So for me, I don't know. Welcome Home Sanitarium. Always, it's kind of the ballad, right, of Master Puppets. You know, if you want to go so far as to call it that. Just great song, man. I love the desperation in his voice. You know, like it really sounds like a guy kind of just sort of slowly losing it. You know, it's kind of creepy in a way. You know, I mean, one does the same thing with that video. You're like, you know, you watch that and you're like, they take that was it the audio from that Johnny Get Your Gun, that old movie or whatever, and it freaks you out too because you're like, the guy's talking to himself like, geez, I'm alive and I can't even tell anybody anything. You know, I'm inside this body and I'm done, and it's like.
Well, yeah, it's like the general, like he just keeps saying "kill me" over and over again.
Yeah,
kill me.
Well, and it's like I don't want to go down this dark road here, but it's like, you know, I'm dealing with stuff with certain family members right now, and it's like, you know, that are unfortunately, you know, their mind is going, and it's like they're in a place where there's other people, and you're just looking at them, and they're just shells of themselves, and it's sad, and it's like, God, is there someone in there going, I can't live like this, I don't want to live like this, you know, and so they're both really. It's interesting that they both end up kind of going against each other because they are kind of similar theme going on here. You know, the one sort of lost their whole body and the others lost their mind, you know?
Yeah.
And, but yeah, so for me, one is just, I'll say of all of their popular songs, to me, I think it's the most overrated. It's the one I enjoy the least. Now, if I go to a concert and they're playing one, I'm like, oh God, it's, you know, I don't do that, you know.
See, I might I'm like, dude, I've heard this song.
Like, oh yeah, well, it's definitely overplayed, but yeah, I gotta go Sanitarium all the way.
Okay, yeah, for one, like I said, for me is the Gateway, and I'll always have a soft spot for it. And it's weird, like I can listen to it when the album comes on and I love it, but I don't ever want to hear it again live. And it's probably because Lars just plays it so terribly anymore. Like it's I don't know what the hell he's doing on those double bass parts, but you know, for me it's like I say, it's just got so many cool elements to it, and I think the video helps. And that's probably a dumb thing to say because it's kind of obvious, you would think, but yeah, just, you know, you can picture, like I say, that, you know, the guy, you know, why can't they hear me and all this kind of stuff, like, you know, being trapped in that body and like you can't communicate, you're just stuck there as a lump, and that desperation. And I mean, it's very, very excellent point on your part, you know, to say, like, you know, it's kind of like similar subject material between the two songs. I think that's very astute, and it's very correct. And I mean, it's kind of weird, but like, you know, I don't know if I mentioned this on the episode where I talked about my dad, but you know, for the last like 2 years of his life or so, like I just pictured the dude in the Metallica in the one video. I pictured, you know, that guy's situation because my dad was going deaf, he was going blind, he couldn't feel anything from his elbows down, from his knees down, and it was like I just pictured that dude in the one video, like, you know, because my dad's mind was 100% there,
right?
So he was just like that guy, like he knew exactly what was going on, and it's like, what is that like? You know, I mean, what is that? It's just fascinating. But yeah,
there's the ultimate dichotomy too, because I think it's worse for the people around you when they see someone who's losing their mind.
Yeah.
But it's probably worse for you as a person when you've lost all your body and you're totally aware of what's going on. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So it's like, I don't know. We
That's,
let's not dwell on this too much.
That's really deep. Yeah. I like the double bass.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean this is pretty close because Sanitarium is just like you say, unbelievable. To me, this for some I don't know why. Was it never mind. I was thinking of a different song. I was about to say something. It reminds me of another song, but it doesn't. I was thinking of something else, so I won't even blurt that out to get ridiculed. But yeah, all right. So we are we are through the first half of each record, and we literally have picked opposite songs for all four. I did not expect that. I did not expect that. So all right, let's flip the LPs over and move on to song number 5. Again, for those of you guys just tuning in, like JG3, good to see you, Jay. He says, how you guys doing? So for those of you guys just tuning in, we are not using To Live Is To Die, since we have to have 8 songs versus 8 songs. So first track on side 2 of each album, so it would be track 5. Of course, on Master of Puppets, we are pitting Disposable Heroes up against Shortest Straw on And Justice for All. Which one did you pick on this one, Brian?
God, another one is so damn hard. So I'm going to tell the story, but then I'm going to tell you that I don't remember. So
okay.
I think they played it. My whole thing going to the '86 Ozzy Metallica was please God, please play Disposable Heroes. I think they played it. I don't know 100% if they did. I mean, the chorus on that, you will do what I say back to.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just so, you coward, you blind man.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't sound cheesy at all. Like, Sort of Straw is such a killer riff, though, man. But I mean, Disposable Heroes, I think maybe, I don't know if it's probably not underrated because I think everybody appreciates what it is, but it's buried so far down in the album, especially if you have it on CD or something.
Right.
But man, yeah, just a brutal thrash masterpiece. I mean, nothing out of place whatsoever. I mean, probably one of the heaviest things they've ever done. I love it. I gotta go Disposable Heroes, man.
Okay. All right. Before I get to my choice, Kale McLeish has a comment about me choosing one. He says, why am I not surprised that the song where Kirk does his most famous tapping part and has a section dominated by double bass gets the attention of the Van Halen fan? All right, Kale, I will give you the double bass thing. Okay, I'll give you that. However, and I'm not just saying this to someone in the Discord said, oh, the guys have hot takes. Neither Brian nor I ever say shit just to be like, ooh, we're confrontational. Like, every single thing out of our mouth is honestly how we feel. So I'm not saying this just to be like, like hot take guy. I cannot stand Kirk Hammett's lead guitar playing. At least his sound. If he does, I just want to ram that wah pedal right up his ass. I'm like, stop using the goddamn wah pedal. Oh my god. I love the solos on Justice because there's not a lot of melody there to solo over, yet he still comes up with some great shit. But that said, overall, he's a great guitar player. Do not get me wrong. But even back when I was like a huge Metallica guy, when I'd be watching all the live stuff or listening to things, and to get to a guitar solo, I'd be like, fast forward, like him soloing on his own, not in the middle of a song. Like, fast forward, get past this crap, this chittery, chattery, like, ugh, terrible tone, just not a fan. So Cale McLeish also says regarding this song selection, this one is painful. JG3, he is choosing Shortest Straw. Johan Alexanderson went with Shortest Straw. Giovanni Palaya says Disposable Straw. It's a tie. Disposable Straw.
Shortest Disposable Hero.
Oh my god, nice. Oh my god. JG.
Well, to go back to the comment real quick about the Van Halen. Don't skip over the fact that the double bass drum, the sound of the drums is nothing like the impeccable drum sounds on every Van Halen album that I still to this day say draws me in more than the guitar, like, because it's so out front, it's so perfectly mixed on usually the bass and the kick, and it's like Alex is just so damn good. So let's not let's not get carried away with the double bass drumming from
Right.
Lars Ulrich, especially when it comes to the sound.
Oh God. Yeah. I'll give you that, man. And I will also give you my selection on this song.
We're gonna go what, 0 for 7.
We are finally on the same page.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Disposable Heroes is my third favorite Metallica song.
Nice.
So just a couple of, albums full of favorites for me. Yeah, Disposable Hero, and oddly enough, this was an easy one for me. Only because I love Disposable Heroes so much. If the Shortest Straw was up against almost anything else in their catalog, it probably would have been Shortest Straw. But it did draw the Shortest Straw in this competition.
Right.
and yeah, I mean, Disposable Heroes is just, I'm with you again. The lyrics, like, they're not cheesy, but it paints such a great picture of being in a war. You will do what I say. Like, you hear the guy getting yelled at. It's, bucking a machine on fire. There's nothing to me now. And the riffs are just like, it goes from the, like and it backs on like the song just fucking rips, man. Like, I mean, I just remember when I got the tape out of the library when I was a kid, so I just got the shit out of the library so I could dub it. And I got through the first side of Master of Puppets and I was like, oh my God, and Sanitarium had that, like, the slowish parts. And then I I flipped the tape over, put this in, and instantly, I'm like, whoa, like here we go again.
Yeah, that's how you start the second side of an album, man.
Exactly.
It's 101 right there.
Yeah, exactly, man. And I mean, I love Shortest Straw. Like you said, the riffs on that are just great. That song, to me, the word I would use to describe it is obnoxious. That's just a snotty song, like,
Yeah.
like, and it's, a slower type of, thrashy kind of thing. But Disposable Heroes is Disposable Heroes. And the song just slams all the fucking way through. So for me, this was not a difficult choice. Again, only because it's Disposable Heroes. Otherwise, Shortest Straw is way up there on my list of favorite Metallica songs. So, yeah, we finally agreed on one.
Yeah.
All right. So, moving on to track 6, of course, off of Master of Puppets, that would be Leper Messiah, and off of And Justice for All, we are talking about Harvester of Sorrow, which, as we discussed, is the first single off of And Justice for All. So which one do you have winning this battle?
Oh my God, man. This is
these are fun, aren't they?
I'm gonna say Harvester of Sorrow. I remember the first time I did hear this as a new single, and I was kind of like, wow, this is kind of a little bit different here. And then I heard it again, and it just like, I mean, that thing just gets stuck in your head, and you can't get it out of there.
Yeah.
It's like, some people might think that's a really annoying riff, but Leper Messiah is amazing. I'm going to take Harvester of Sorrow on this one. It's that close. I mean, I guess if we're going to see him live, of course, I'm probably going to say I'd rather see you play Leper Messiah. So I don't know if I'm even doing this exercise correctly.
Right.
I mean,
I don't blame you.
Yeah. You know what? I'm going to stick with Harvester of Sorrow. I love that the part where he goes, language of the mad. I have no idea what any of it means, but.
Well, and the live version, after the, that harmonized solo thing, all those bootlegs, he brought the band back in by like hocking a loogie, like, here sounds in here.
Oh, really?
Oh, have said their prayer. Yeah, it was like that was the thing on all the bootlegs. If you go back to, like, that tour, like the Black Album, stuff like that, he just blows a huge wad of snot, and that's how the band comes back in. It's like the most old school Metallica thing ever. Robert Reams says Harvester of Sorrow, and it's not even close. First time I heard that song was live in Cleveland in 2009. I've been hooked ever since. That riff goes so hard. Giovanni Palaia says Bow to Leper Messiah. Kale McLeish says Leper Messiah. Harvester was before Disposable on that same 2010 set list and I was there for the 2013 gig, but it doesn't have that bridge, which is pure sonic ecstasy. Bow to Leper Messiah. And JG3 says, I love Harvester of Sorrow, but I might give the nod to Leper Messiah. I am actually siding with JG3 and Kale and Giovanni on this one. I also will bow to Leper Messiah. This was kind of a difficult one for me. This was very close. And again, I wonder if maybe the quote unquote overplayed bias isn't a little bit fresh in my mind with Harvester of Sorrow. I love Harvester of Sorrow. I just think for me, the reason that I chose Leper Messiah is because Leper Messiah kind of stands out on Master of Puppets as the quote unquote different song. You know, it is a little, you know, it's much different stylistically from the rest of the record to me. Instead of like some, you know, and stuff like that, it's a
it's like
very
a
staccato,
plotting kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, and Kale nailed it. Like that bridge, you know, like that's just awesome.
It's gonna make some great radio play.
I know, right? I know. Well, you know, for all the audio viewers, got to give them something. So, yeah, Leper Messiah is just such a damn cool song, and I love the lyrics to it, and like Hetfield's almost barking it at times, and yeah, there's just something about this song I always thought was really unique, and it stood out like a sore thumb to me on Puppets, and for that reason, I think, you know, it, you know, stood out for me in terms of, you know, comparing it to Harvester of Sorrow. So I'm definitely going with you know, Leper Messiah. I think it's cool as shit, man.
I love the second line. That circus comes to town. You play the lead. I don't know.
Yeah, dude, Hetfield's
awesome, man.
Dude, Hetfield doesn't get nearly enough credit for being the lyricist that he is. Even you know, even on the records I don't like he's got some great lines. Like he really is a really, really good lyricist. And
well, sometimes you're the dog, sometimes you're the hydrant. I mean,
jeez, oh, DLR, how? Oh God, I mean, okay. If you look at the lyrics for A Different Kind of Truth, he's got some great stuff on there. It's not all that, but you know, so yeah, so we've righted the ship. We are at odds again. We've only agreed on 1 out of 6, which brings us to the 7th song. That would be on Master of Puppets. We have the instrumental Orion. And on And Justice for All, we are talking about Frayed Ends of Sanity. So, what did you do here? Did you choose the instrumental, or did you choose the one that's actually a quote-unquote full-blown song?
I took Frayed Ends of Sanity.
Okay.
I don't think this is that close, to be honest, man. I love this is the O-E-O. I love that. I mean, I love it. Feels like you're just going to go. This seems like another just great moshing kind of a, you know. Lyrically, this is another great one, man. I mean, I love the song title, Frayed Ends of Sanity. That's freaking awesome, man. Yeah, all the riffs on this, it's a cool prog, probably one of the more standout ones prog-wise, this one in the title track. I love all the stuff they do in Frayed Ends of Sanity. Orion's a very cool song. You know, it's an instrumental, so you're always going to lose a little bit. But, like, you know, if Metallica comes out and, like, I would love to see him come out and just open the show with Orion. Just get everyone hyped up. When that riff comes in, the ding, 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 you know, that riff comes in.
Yeah.
You're bouncing up and down. And then, hell, they go right into Frayed Ends of Sanity, you know, get everyone doing the chant, you know, like, you know, get them both. So
that would be awesome.
Yeah, so I'll go Frayed Ends of Sanity on this one.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it is a little difficult considering the fact that, you know, Orion is, you know, an instrumental. So that's what made it difficult in removing To Live Is To Die from the competition. because we could have instrumental versus instrumental, but then what are you taking out from Justice? Are you taking out Eye of the Beholder? Are you taking out Freight? Like, what are you taking out? So, yeah, Orion is great. I think most Metallica fans would say it's their greatest instrumental. I mean, they don't have a ton of them, but I think this is the one everybody thinks of, when they think of that sort of thing. Obviously, there's that the breakdown in the middle is very kind of melancholy. I always, whenever I hear that, like when you if you're like when I think about Metallica in my mind, I think, oh, Cliff died. The soundtrack behind me thinking of Cliff dying is the breakdown, the bridge of Orion. With him doing do, the broken chord thing on the
Yeah.
bass and the harmony guitar thing. Um, so this song has a lot of feel to me for that reason, but Frayed Ends of Sanity to me is the most underrated Metallica song there is. This
Wow.
song never gets talked about, and I do not know why. I mean, they've almost never played the song live. I mean, it could be because of that middle riff. I mean, it's like it's just a triple like like, oh my god. Hetfield was probably like, I need to go fuck myself for writing this and making me play this. Like, that's a bitch. But yeah, I mean, Frayed Ends, like you said. I mean, it starts with the and then the riff, like again, it's just a fucking brutal riff, and great lyrics, like you said, great song title, and I don't understand why this song doesn't get more love. I never ever hear it mentioned when you're talking about great Metallica stuff. And you mentioned earlier, like, might be due to placement on, like track listing and whatnot. But even still, like, I mean, I get it. It's, near the end of the record, but it just slams. It absolutely slams. So yeah, I had to go with Frayed Ends. This was an easy one for me. Um, as much as I like Orion, even if Orion had lyrics or something, it would be Frayed Ends would beat out just about anything for me, to be honest with you.
Well, Kale said
So
they did open with Orion on the first show of the last tour, so that's awesome. That would be a killer idea, like I said.
wow, I didn't know they did that.
Yeah, I didn't either.
I'll full disclosure. When I saw the lineup, the Friday night lineup on this most recent Metallica tour, I was like, I would probably go watch Mammoth, WVH, and Pantera, and then go home. Like, Lars just annoys the shit out of me, and I don't know. Aiken is on record as saying, like, Aiken like has seen Metallica like fucking 50 times, and the first time he saw him was in like a hotel ballroom. For he's somewhere. I don't know if he still has it or he lost it, but he had a signed original LP of Ride the Lightning. He met the band that night and they signed it, and he was an enormous fan. He still says that the greatest concert he's ever been to this day was the 1991 Day on the Green.
Sure.
That was the opening show of the Black Tour.
Yeah.
And man, he says that seeing Hetfield now, like, hey friends, Papa Hetfield. He's like, what the fuck is this? I mean, he hates it. He went to a show in the last couple of years. He was like, what the hell is this? And he said that they were trying to do like playing B-sides and get some some different stuff in the set list, but he said the ones they picked were just terrible.
Yeah.
So yeah. So anyway, so we both chose Frayed Ends of Sanity. All right, so we are on to the last song. As I said earlier, we are skipping To Live Is to Die, which leaves us with the closing track from Master of Puppets, which is Damage Incorporated, and the closing track from And Justice for All, which is the infamous Dyer's Eve. Which way did you lean on this one?
This is tough. I actually am not a huge fan of either of these, to be honest.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I don't think that they're necessarily amazing ways to end an album. Damage gets a little too slayery, I think. my biggest problem with Damage is that don't fuck with Razorback or whatever. Like what are you talking? I don't even know what they're talking about.
He's talking about the University of Arkansas.
Their
Little known
football
fact.
team. That's what I thought.
Yeah,
Yes.
he's talking about the University of Arkansas, the Razorbacks.
No, he's not.
Oh,
But
you
yeah.
can tell the dumb jokes, but I can't.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I like the beginning of Damage Incorporated, but I feel like it's definitely the weakest. Would you agree it's the weakest song on Master Puppets, or no?
I hate to use the term weakest about anything on Puppets, but I think I would have to agree.
Okay, I don't even think it's close. Like when you're ranking them, I think it would every single time I think it would come in last.
Yeah, but I think it's like the whole pizza argument. Like even bad pizza's good. It's like that. Like it's just everything else is so iconic that it's like, you know.
Yeah, yes and no. I mean, there's a pretty big chasm between Disposable Heroes and Damage Incorporated. I mean, let's be
Well,
realistic
I'm not gonna.
here.
Yeah. Okay.
Bigger than you think. So I guess I'll go Dyer's Eve.
Okay.
I've always felt like I actually kind of feel like Even to Live is to Die. I've sort of grown to like that more, but I'll be honest, almost all the time when I would listen to this album, I would usually duck out of there after Frayed Ends of Sanity.
Okay.
So, you know what? I'm just going to go Damage, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah, even despite what all I said. Yeah, I don't know, man.
You are going Damage Incorporated.
I guess. It's a tie. Again, both of these
No
songs,
ties, damn you.
I could definitely skip hearing either of these live. Jeez. You know what? Screw it. I'll go Dyer's Eve.
do I hear another flip flop coming, or are we sticking? Is this
No,
written?
I mean,
written in Sharpie now.
On this one, I legit don't. I'll actually say I don't care. Because I seriously did usually duck out after Frayed Ends, but I'll appreciate Dyer's Eve for what it is. So let's go Dyer's Eve.
Okay, all right. Well, for me, Damage Incorporated is awesome. I mean, you're not wrong to say that it is. I can't say weakest. I'll say least good song.
Least goodest.
Yeah, the least goodest song on Master of Puppets. And again, I think it's solely because the other stuff is so goddamn good that something has to be last place. And this, unfortunately, was the one. Giovanni Palaia. Yeah, that's what I mentioned earlier, man. Damage Incorporated with Barney Greenway on vocals. Yep, that was awesome at the Ronnie Scott show. Johan Alexanderson is choosing Dyer's Eve because it's fast. Nice. Aaron Taft, he says, the intro to Damage Incorporated seals it for me. Kale says, man, I think I have to go Damage Inc. here. Dyer's is a huge song, but Damage has that bridge riff that goes so freaking hard. Dyer's has a better solo refrain, though. Nah, Damage. Chastity, no ties. This isn't soccer. Nice. Oh my God. Yeah, I mean, Damage Incorporated is a great tune. I do agree again that I think it is the least strong song on the record. If you think about it, though, you kind of almost can't play. Think about putting it elsewhere on the record. I don't really think there's a better place to put it.
Oh, so, no, I agree. It's got to be there, but it's just, I don't know.
Yeah, no, and for me, I'm going Dyer's Eve. So we agreed on that one. So you flip-flopped and still ended on Dyer's Eve. So there we go. Yeah, for me, Dyer's Eve is just it's iconic to me because everyone talks about that being the song that Lars wouldn't do live because he couldn't do the double bass. It was too fast. I personally, I think it's a great way to end And Justice for All. I think it's an exclamation point. Justice is a thrashy record. It's an angry record, and Dyer's Eve is the fastest and probably angriest song on the record. So it's basically just, we were pissed off, now we're really pissed off, album's over, which I always thought was kind of cool. Interesting story. I got to interview Jason Newsted shortly after he left Metallica. He was actually promoting his Echo Brain project about think it was the year after he left Metallica, I want to say, like 2003. And off the record, I said, because he didn't want to do Metallica stuff for obvious reasons. And so I said, well, off the record, turn the tape off. Can I ask you some Metallica stuff? He said, yeah, that's fine. So I got to talk to him about, how he really felt about the Metallica shit. And, one thing he told me was that when they were going over the artwork for Load, he was sitting there and just, they were on a table like, what do you think of this? And passing it around, and he's got a notebook, and he's like, he just kept, he wrote the word disgusted really big. That's how he phrased it on a notebook. He hated it. And he's like, we're fucking Metallica, and we're putting bull semen, like cow jizz, on our album cover. What the fuck is that? Like, and then, I asked him about Dyer's Eve, and he said that he actually would piss Lars off because backstage before shows he'd poke at him, but hey Lars, you want to play Dyer's Eve tonight, Lars? Let's play Dyer's Eve. Let's play Dyer's Eve. And Lars would get pissed off because Jason was doing it because he knew Lars couldn't pull it off, so he used to poke at him using that song. So it legitimately was not played because Lars couldn't play it fast enough. And so I just thought that was pretty funny to hear that was actually the truth, and the fact that Jason Newsted made fun of him for it and whatnot. So I thought that was kind of cool. But yeah, for me, it's Dyer's Eve. This actually was really, really difficult for me because I do like them both, and in a way they're kind of similar to me. But in the end, I just like how Dyer's Eve fits in with the rest of Justice more so than I do the way Damage Incorporated fits in with the rest of Puppets. So I went Dyer's Eve.
There's kind of a punky, a little bit of a thrash punk thing to Dyer's Eve, I think, which is cool. It sort of takes me a little bit back to the garage days.
Right. Yeah, I mean it's
especially the dear mother, dear father.
Yeah.
That part especially.
Well, he's giving the finger to his parents, like it's right. We all his issues with his parents are well documented at this point, and back then, especially like kids at that point, like you were screaming at your parents, like what kid couldn't get behind that? You know what I mean? Like, I mean, that's who doesn't want to just like bark at their parents, like you screwed me over, man. Like, so the sentiment was there with it as well. So, yeah. So this was interesting. I am surprised that we were apart on some of the songs that we were, and I'm also shocked that you actually had this as a tie. You had 4 from each album, whereas I had Justice winning 5-3. So I guess it's a 9-7 win overall for and Justice for All. How about that?
Yeah, I don't know. It's just very difficult.
It's like, how do you pit like iconic records against each other? You know what I mean? It's like,
I have no idea. I
mean, but the good thing about it is it's fun to have to do it because right. You're like, I have to go listen to these records. Oh no, I have to listen to Master of Puppets and Justice for All back to back. What a shame. Oh, it's such difficult homework.
All right, I want to get a plug in for our buddy's podcast, and there's a reason I want to do this because they brought up a point on one of their shows. So this goes out to Two Bob's Cast, the A to Z Rock and Metal. It's available on all streaming platforms. So they were talking about when they're ranking these albums, they can distinguish between the best album and their favorite album.
Oh,
are you and so this is I'll say right off the bat, I actually probably think Justice is the better album, and it's not close, but Master of Puppets is my favorite album. I'm able to make that distinction.
Okay. Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. Because I'll use Star Wars as an example. I think the best Star Wars movie is The Empire Strikes Back, but my favorite is Revenge of the Sith. So I think, there's a difference. You can have an emotional attachment to a record or a movie, but that doesn't mean that it's better than, in terms of quality. You know what I mean? Like, I've got such personal memories of waiting 3 years for Revenge of the Sith, and just being like, oh my God, how are they going to play this out? Like, how is he going to turn to Darth Vader? Like, and just waiting, from 2002 to 2005. And then, finally getting to see it at the midnight movie with my brother. And, is basically the last gasp of, people actually showing up to the movies in costumes and with their lightsabers. And it was, just like, 1,000, 1,500 people waiting just to explode. And I love the movie. It's my favorite for that reason. I have such great memories. But Empire Strikes Back is like a perfect movie. You know what I mean? Like, it's the Empire Strikes Back, for Christ's sakes. So, yeah, I think that's completely legitimate. To say, Puppets is your favorite, but you think Justice is, the better album.
Right.
I mean, that totally makes sense to me. So, yeah, I mean, it's weird. I think. Like for example, Justice is my favorite, but I would say that Puppets might be an easier listen. Even though Justice is my favorite.
Sure.
I mean, I think the prog elements in Justice make it a little more tough, whereas Master of Puppets is pretty much your straight up thrash record, and it stays pretty much in a groove, between the lines, whereas Justice veers out into some weird territory here and there. So yeah, I don't think that's a bad take at all. I think it's completely accurate. So what band were they talking about when they brought that up?
Avatar.
That's a movie.
So
I'm sorry.
So again, check it out. It's the Two Bobcats. They're doing A to Z, full discography, and what they're doing is they're doing a classic band, basically, and then they're also doing a newer band for each letter. So they're going to have plenty of shows to go through and plenty of bands. So the first two are just been were out. They did AC/DC, and they also did Avatar. And coming next is Black Sabbath, which I think they're dividing up into two different ones. But really, really good show. I'm enjoying listening to them so far.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll definitely check that out. And I believe that we're going to have them on co-hosting with us coming up here pretty soon. It'll be one of the next in our album series. When we get to 2005, we're going to have them come on and do one of those episodes where we say, okay, it's 2005 and we can't have Octavarium. So what are we going to pick instead? So we're going to have them do that with us.
That's correct.
Yep. All right, man.
Did you think I'd have more Justice then, or did you?
No, I thought you would have. I thought you were going to have Puppets in a landslide.
Yeah, I might want to go back and redo a couple now.
Yeah, it's like when I looked at it, I was like, "How the hell did he end up with a tie?"
Leper Messiah was tough not voting for that. So I think I'm already going to change mine on that one.
Well, I mean, you flip-flopped 3 times on Dyer's Even Damage Incorporated.
Yeah,
so.
well, again, I said I don't have strong feelings either way on either of those. They're all right. I think they're both easily the weakest songs on the albums for my taste.
Yeah, I mean it's hard. What would you pick otherwise? I mean, that's how you answer that question.
What about To Live Is to Die? Where would you just quickly?
Like, if I had to rank it?
Yeah.
Oh man.
Because we already did an episode where we talked about this whole album, right? Justice.
Yeah, we did a deep dive. But we have not done a deep dive into Kill 'Em All, Ride the Lightning, or Master of Puppets, so we should do those. See, it's hard to say because, like, okay, I don't skip To Live Is to Die, but that one is kind of like where I catch my breath. You know what I mean? Like it's
do you think those two songs at the end should have been flip flopped, or do you like the order?
I like the order. I almost would have flip flopped Freight Ends of Sanity and To Live Is to Die.
Okay.
I kind of would have done that.
Okay.
But that being said, I think that's kind of why I like Dyer's Eve as a closer, is because To Live Is to Die, you've got it's slow, and it's got Cliff Burton's, I believe it's his last lyric, if I remember right, because I know he didn't have anything on the Black Album, so it would have to be. But it's there's something atmospheric about that one because it's so slow.
Yeah.
And it's just, to me, it's just cool. The layering on the guitars is awesome, but it is because it is so slow. It's kind of like catching your breath, and you're like, okay, And then Dyer's
Right.
like, you're like, ah, like
Yeah.
it's like having a panic attack after waking up from a nap.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, so, yeah, I mean, I like it. I like it a lot. I would have to say of their instrumentals, that would probably be. See, it's hard to say of their instrumentals because what is there like? There's Call of Cthulhu, Orion, this To Live Is to Die. I mean, do you count Anesthesia? Because that's really just a bass solo. I can't count that as an
No.
instrumental. And isn't there like an instrumental on Death Magnetic? I think.
Well,
I think
if there is, it's that memorable that you don't even remember it.
right.
I'm proving my point about that album.
Yeah, I can't. Man, I cannot believe you hate that record that much. Especially as a comeback after Saint Anger. Like, that was just a cool drink of water in the desert for me. To hear Death Magnetic, I'm like, thank God. Like,
well,
ugh.
I'll go back and check it out again. I'm inspired sometimes to check out things like that, so we'll see.
I get some people don't like the production because they pushed it to the absolute limits, so it can be pretty grating. But, I don't know.
There is some stuff on the side here about Mike Portnoy should replace Lars Ulrich.
Oh God.
Someone else. I don't think they're going to be getting rid of Lars, considering it's his band. But
well, Scott Ian said in his autobiography that because Anthrax was touring with Metallica over in Europe when Cliff was killed. He did say that James and Cliff were having talks about booting Lars after that tour.
I remember that.
So it's very, very interesting to think what would have happened had they done that. Because I mean, Lars was, he is the engine of the band in terms of business, but goddamn, the drumming is terrible.
Before we leave, do you have one more Metallica concert in you, or are you just done no matter what?
I'm probably done. I just cannot get past Lars's playing. It just grates on me too much. It's like some people like with David Lee Roth on the last couple Van Halen tours where they just would not go see, like they just couldn't get past David Lee Roth. It's like that for me with Lars. And I honestly, this is gonna sound, you're not even gonna believe this, but I've actually only seen Metallica live one time.
Oh wow, okay.
It was New Year's Day of 2000, and it was they opened up with that stupid "Die Die My Darling" song. I'm like, what the fuck did I pay for? But then they went into Creeping Death.
Well,
and I'll never forget, I was with my buddy Warren, who's one of the original guitar players in my band Gatlin, and he's like one of the greatest people you ever meet, just the sweetest, nicest guy, but he was also the most crass, direct motherfucker ever. He was amazing. I love him. Funniest dude I have ever met. And there's these teeny boppers in front of us, and we're sitting there, and they play "Die Die My Darling." They're going nuts. They're ringing out. All of a sudden, you hear and they go, "Oh, what is this? This sucks. What is this?" He goes, "Fuck you, fuck you! It's real fucking Metallica. Shut the fuck up!" Like screaming at these kids. I was laughing my ass off. I was like, "Yes, get him."
I mean, the biggest problem for me, and you're going to hate me even more, I think I told you. So the first time is, they open for Ozzy.
Yeah.
The second time is Queensryche on Operation Mindcrime opens for them on this tour.
God.
So I mean, on what planet can I possibly top those two performances? Like,
I mean,
it's not possible, right?
Yeah, I mean, maybe seeing the Black tour from the Snake Pit, maybe.
Right.
But other than that, no, there's just not.
And on that, you're not going to get Ozzy, and you're not going to get Queensryche. So
yeah, true. Yeah, no, I'm with you. Like, just let sleeping dogs lie. Like, I don't know. And the whole stadium thing to me is so impersonal. I think it's just, I don't mind it. I mean, it's cool and everything. It's just I don't know.
Do you remember when they did that surprise show at the Odeon? Didn't mean to cut you off there.
No, you're good.
Do you remember that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That was I think Aiken had a hand in that or something. And it
Okay.
wasn't that I think wasn't that like before they were actually playing like Gund Arena that night or something, weren't they?
Yeah, it was either that or the next day, but it was on the Black Album tour, I believe.
No, it was Load or Reload.
Oh, you're right. You're right. Because King Nothing was out, I think.
Yeah, I don't know if it was that particular show. It might have been, but Aiken got to soundcheck Lars's drums
Okay.
when they were included. I think it might have been that one because that was one of those coffee break concerts, and Aiken helped with those back
Okay.
in the day. So, I think that was the one where he actually got to soundcheck Lars's drums at Gund Arena. So, he got to play. I think, and he played like for him the bell tolls with him or something. And I'm like, dude, if I had done that, I would have played the shit out of Creeping Death. I'd have been like, I would have been like, I would have tried to show off a little bit to like, look, I could play, and just on the off chance that they would have bumped it back later in the set, but like, we got to get this guy up here to actually play in front of all these people. Like, that would have been the coolest shit ever, man. Those are the sorts of like pipe dreams that I have. I want to play Creeping Death with Metallica.
Those shows were. I remember when 9 Inch Nail, there was a rumor, and then somebody confirmed it, and then so my buddy's like, I'm going to go down there real quick, and I'll call you. That's when you got a call from a payphone. He's like, yeah, dude, don't even come down here. There's like 1,400 people around the block.
Yeah,
because it's confirmed that Nails is playing here. This is when they were at the height of the, of the, what the hell's the damn album? Well, whatever the one was closer is on it.
Pretty Hate Machine.
Yeah. It was right after the one right after that. But yeah, it was just like,
okay,
you couldn't get within 2 miles. There's no way you're going to get in at that point. Like once the word got out,
Yeah.
Downward Spiral. Couldn't think of the word.
Oh, okay. I'm surprised I even knew one 9 Inch Nails record. I cannot stand that band. Trent Reznor is a very cool guy and insanely talented. Cannot stand his music, but I'm not into any of that electronic crap. So, not my thing. Industrial is to me. Not that should be a surprise, considering Van Halen's my favorite band. But
right.
Well, man, this was a great time. Difficult discussion, but a fun one. This one, it was crazy because when you decided to do this, I had my list done in like 3 minutes. I listened to Metallica so much back in the day that it's still so ingrained in my head that I can hear all the parts in my head without even listening to the record. It's that familiar to me. So yeah, this was good. So we'll definitely have to do it again. Maybe we'll figure out a way to do like Kill 'Em All versus Ride the Lightning. That would be interesting, and deep dive some of the records and stuff. Metallica is a huge influence on Dream Theater, and I know I was a massive fan, and so it'd be cool to talk about Metallica some more. I think it'd be good. So if the audience would be into it, then we'd be more than happy to do that. So
we still have to do Saint Anger against Risk, like we talked about. We
have
to do that.
that one. Fun. That one we need to prep for because that means I have to listen to those goddamn albums.
Right.
I mean, it's bad enough to listen to one, much less having to listen to both.
Right.
And man,
crush them.
Yeah. I mean, I already know which one's going to win for me, but it's just having to listen to that shit is, jeez, oh man. We can call that the what were they thinking cage match.
Yeah.
Ugh. So in any case, all right, man. Well, that was fun. Thank you guys in the chat for hanging out again. Chastity Crawley, JG3, Giovanni Palaya, Robert Reams, good to see you. Kale McLeish, as always. Aaron Taft, Zauber96, all you guys, much appreciated. The Discord is open as we speak, so I will put that in the chat one more time if you guys want to check it out. I don't know how to share it, so you like to invite people. But yeah, Kale, if you know how to do that, then feel free or tell me how to do it. But anyways, guys, yeah, we do have a Discord now if you guys want to chat after the show or at any time throughout the weeks, between the times that we're doing the show. And speaking of times we do the show, it is every other Thursday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So our next show date will be Thursday, June 27th. At 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Again, if you guys are watching on YouTube, please don't forget to click that like button, click that subscribe button, and smash that notification bell so that you're notified every single time that we go live. If you guys are looking for audio replays of the show, just Google Talking Into Infinity Podcast. We're on pretty much any platform you can think of. So once again, guys, thanks for hanging out. This was a great discussion. We'll see you guys in the Discord as I'm doing the post-production. And Brian, I will see you in 2 weeks, and I'm sure we'll talk before then. But Guys, as always, I am your host, John. He is Brian. And till next time, guys, Carpe Diem.